This is a video of my early morning work commute. It's about 6:30 a.m. and taking the back way out of my development. If you'll look right there, that's dog poo. And luckily I saw it at the last second and was able to avoid it. You've got to love the considerate neighbors in my area. On this ride, I don't go too fast. I think my top speed was 44 miles an hour. It was pretty windy, despite besides that being really nice weather for riding. But for some reason, I couldn't get a really good stance on the scooter, so I didn't feel too safe going too fast this morning. Also, the only protection I had was my helmet and my gloves. I don't know what it is. I put about 240 miles on this scooter, and the scooter I had before it, I probably did 300 miles. And you'd think by now I'd have like a stance, like muscle memory programmed in, but I don't. I kind of, every time I step on the board, even after I come to a stop at like a light, I have to try to play with my foot positioning. It's 6:30 in the morning, and the sun's just coming up over the horizon, so I only have the standard auxiliary lights on the 11X. I don't have my usual, I have like 150 lumen rear flasher that I put on the back of my helmet usually, and I'll turn one or two of my headlights on, but I didn't do that this morning. I'm pretty happy. It looks like I got the camera angle right this time. Not too high up, not too far down. I think it's just right. I know it doesn't sound like it, but I have the wind noise reduction turned on the action camera. It's just, I think that once you go like 30 miles an hour into the wind, it's just, there's no drowning it out. Again, if you're looking for high speed, you're not going to find it in this video. I think my average moving speed was about 38 to 42 miles an hour the whole way. I got a set of 1,800-pound springs. Came in the mail from China the other day. I'm waiting on oil-dampened shocks. The only issue I seem to have while riding this thing at speed, I stay mainly on the roads, is all these cracks in the road. They're really quick, but they can be pretty jarring, especially if I don't have my weight towards the back of the scooter. And honestly, I never really get the wobbles. I don't really hold on to the steering handle for dear life. I have a decent grip with my right hand just so I can control the throttle smoothly. But I find that if you put like a death grip and really hold on to the handle, that's when you get the wobbles. But essentially, all you're using the handle for is to help steer, and you're not turning this thing like a car or a bicycle. You're pretty much using it to help you balance, and you're leaning to turn. But anyway, I ordered 165 millimeter oil dampened shocks, and I'm not exactly sure what I really want to do. They definitely perform better than these stock shocks. The only issue is supposedly the 08X uses dual front and rear 135 millimeter eye to eye. The 10X uses 135 in the front, 165 in the back. And if you check the internet, Falcon PEV will tell you that the front and rear to the 11X are 175 millimeter eye to eye. But if you go online, you can't find a single place anywhere that will sell. Like, you can even find some 170s and some 180s, but nothing in 175 form factor. And then I was on AliExpress and I saw basically a vendor advertising shocks and springs for the Mercury Speed Dual. It's basically the 08, 10, and 11. And it says that the 11 has dual 165 front and rear. It doesn't give a spring weight rating, but what I figured I would do is when they come in, I plan on replacing the suspension, and I have 1,800 pound springs and I guess the stock springs. So I think I'm basically going to try at first the 1800s, see how they do. I believe the stock springs, somebody online believes they're about 1,500. If that's true, then I'll probably like the 1800 because I'm a little bit heavier. If not, or they don't perform well, I can just use the stock springs from the stock shocks, put them on the oil dampened ones, and hopefully I get a noticeable performance increase. Basically, the oil damping allow you to adjust the rate at which the actual shock reforms. So I'm trying to increase that speed because the bumps I'm hitting are, and let me know if this is incorrect logic, but the bumps I'm hitting are not very significant. I mean, they are, but they're short. So I'm not hitting multiple bumps just in a row. I'm hitting one here and there, and that's the only thing that kind of makes me uncertain when I'm at speed. So what I'm hoping for is, the suspension to reform quickly. I want to increase that so I gain control as quickly as possible. Also, speaking of things I ordered from China, I ordered, probably erroneously, a 8 amp fast charger. It uses one charging port. The charging connector for these scooters is a GX16 3-prong, which just means it's got 3 holes, and the size of the hole on the scooter is 16 millimeters. The actual size of the female connector that goes into it is 12 millimeters. But as far as I know, each charging port has a very small microfuse, and I believe they're 5 amps each. So if I connect it to an 8, regardless of if the battery can handle it or not, there's 2 things I'm kind of concerned about. Unfortunately, there's no returns on the fast charger, so I might end up just junking it. Unfortunately, it's a $100 mistake on my part, because even if I were to open up the board and replace the fuse, which I could, with say a 10 amp fuse, the wiring in these scooters, specifically these ones, unfortunately, the gauging is borderline barely large enough for the amount of power that this scooter has. And if that holds true, the same's probably going to hold true for the charging port cables. I think I read somewhere when I was looking around, they're rated for a max of, say, 6.7 or 7 amps, the actual wire itself. So putting 8 through there is only going to cause issues, I think. So I had ordered 2 5 amps. I know there's mixed opinions that people have on fast chargers with these things, but this is a very large, powerful battery at 32 amp hours. I know that E-Wheels sells the rebranded version called the Turbo Wheel Phaeton, with a 35 amp hour battery, and they recommend to use 1 or 2 fast chargers at 5 amps each. I've seen people online argue that, for example, Ginger on Wheels, he does a video with his Cabo Wolf Warrior where he hooks it up to 2 5 amp fast chargers, and for hours, and he monitors the battery with a heat sensor. And I believe he says that in order to get into dangerous battery degradation territory, you need to hit about 120 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, on a hot summer day, you could hit 120 degrees Fahrenheit leaving, say, the scooter in the trunk of your car. But the hottest he got, I think, was mid-90s. He didn't even break 100 after hours of leaving it hooked up like that. So he claims there's no battery degradation until you hit that speed. He's comfortable charging like that. I mean, I would only charge like that if I needed to use the scooter again quickly. Basically, I would say I would rarely be using it, but it's nice to have. Right now, I just currently have 2 stock chargers, which are 1.5 amps each. So when I charge it, I'm putting 3 amps into the scooter. Even at 3 amps, it takes 8.5 hours to fully charge from empty. Basically, one day I want to make a video where I go 30-35 miles, probably on eco mode, and then I cruise back the same speed after I get to my destination. But I want to be able to charge the scooter back up to near full if I can, so I would probably bring the 2 fast chargers with me in that instance, because I believe with 2 5 amp fast chargers, putting 10 amps in, you could fully charge this thing in 2.5 hours, 3 tops. This curve's pretty fun. I think I hit my top speed here, 44 miles an hour, like right where that red car is. You can check the relive summary at the end to confirm that. But if you want to know where I hit my top speed, it was on this road here. So that'll give you a frame of reference. And as I was saying earlier, I feel that the steering is tight enough on this where you don't need a steering dampener. It's just a matter of me being a little heavy for this thing, and the shocks are pretty springy. I've got them the travel distance shortened. I've got the springs tightened a little bit more than they were when the scooter arrived. Also, if you haven't really watched my other videos, I have gotten a flat before so far. When I finally got it open, there was a tear along the middle of the tube on the seam in the rear tire, and opening, getting the rim off. The screws weren't Loctited from the factory like they're supposed to be, and there was a rip right down the seam of the tube, about 3 inches long. And I had originally tried to repair it, thinking it was just a normal flat with basically slime. And when I got it open, the whole inside of the tire was just filled with slime that I had to clean out. But it looks like what happened is, since these things are split rim, it looks like the rim came off just enough to catch the tube and then pinch and rip it. So it was a pretty serious flat. No amount of slime is going to plug that hole. riding a scooter around is pretty fun. I mean, it's fun riding on main roads, but I try to avoid it whenever possible. And I'll try to find little shortcuts like this one here that you otherwise probably wouldn't even know about if you were just driving a car everywhere. After I make this sharp right-hand turn, I turn it up a little bit because it's uphill and curvy, and it's pretty fun. But there's a curve that even in my car, I only take it about 30 miles an hour. So I slow down on this thing just because I don't want to fly off the road. I was taking a bit of a risk here. Cars on the right, I don't think are expecting scooters to be coming up this hill at about 40 miles an hour. So. But I mean, if all we were ever doing in life is avoiding risks, we probably wouldn't ever be riding fast electric scooters. When I cross this intersection here, the road, as you can see already right now, looks pretty smooth on the right-hand side. But on this section coming up, it's pretty bumpy. And I decided to stay on it, though this time I usually go to the opposite side of the road. But I stayed on it, but you'll probably notice some... It seems like every time I hit small bumps with this camera, it just gets blurry for a second. I was watching a video comparing my action camera, the DJI Osmo, to the Hero 8 Black, as far as the Hypersmooth 2.0 versus the Rocksteady on this camera. And one of the downsides of the Hypersmooth 2.0 is it severely narrows your field of vision. But it gives you like a feeling that you're kind of gliding over bumpy terrain and keeps things in focus, whereas the DJI Osmo and Hero 7 Black, you notice small bumps. They're not jarring, but you notice them in the camera, which I think personally gives a more realistic feel. However, I've been tempted, especially with the announcement of the Hero 9, the price of the 8's gone down a decent amount, about $350, I think. Actually, I think maybe like $320 right now for the commercial packaging version. And one of the things it has is GPS, which unfortunately this camera doesn't, which would allow me to use speedometer, using GPS telemetry on the GoPro editing app. But unfortunately, I don't have GPS capabilities. After I pass these dog walkers, I pick up speed a little bit, coming around this turn, this downhill and then uphill turn. This is one of my favorite parts of this ride, right here. Check to make sure there's no one in my rear view, and then I'll just get in lane. It'll give me a buffer while I make this turn at speed to avoid me going into the tree line there. I was thinking too, even if, and feel free to comment, even if my measurements are incorrect about the suspension and it really is 175 and I'm putting shocks on a suspension that's a centimeter shorter, I think it'll end up lowering the base of the scooter probably about 1.5 inches. But as long as I keep the suspension relatively tight, I don't think that'll be too much of an issue, to be honest. I don't think when they're creating these scooters, they're, finely tuning them that much to the point where if you change the suspension a little bit, you're going to throw off the overall function or performance of the scooter. This video is almost over. If you've watched until the end, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for more ride footage. Thank you. Ride summary videos coming up in a second. Thanks for watching.